go ahead and get some introductions out of the way. My name is Tim. Most of the Kung Fu students refer to me as Sifu. That's a Chinese term for basically teacher, instructor, things along those lines. Um, the approach that I usually do in mindful meditation is a little blend of what is both the Taoist and Buddhist type of approach. I've been trained in about 3 or 4 different styles of meditation. Usually, when we think of meditation, at least from the perspective that I approach it, is that uh, generally I'm trying to get you to both mind and body training, right? And that's why most of the time we practice standing or walking. But for many folks in the beginning, it's just great to be able to have mindfulness, just having to be able to calm the mind down. So before I go too much further, some of y'all have heard this before, but I think it's always good to reiterate it even for myself, is that when we think of mind and body training, usually I'll describe it as a two-edged sword, right? And in fact, there's a whole nother system of training that is called Yituan, which means mind fist, where you learn to take your training and develop your mind into a tool so that you can use it in a number of different situations or how you see fit to guide it, right? Just like any other sword. Your mind can work for you, or sometimes it feels like it's working against you, right? Um, in that metaphor, the tip of the sword of attention is what I call it, right? So you have the sword of attention. On one edge of this sword is concentration, or the ability to concentrate, or the ability to focus. And from the Buddhist teaching, that's the most important part of the sword. That's the side you really have to sharpen first, right? And on the other side is awareness. The other edge is awareness and mindfulness. Now, mindfulness in our world since about the late or mid 80s has become almost synonymous with meditation. All right. But it's really not. It's only about 1/3 of the components and tools that you need. For example, a person who is mindful or very aware of things and untrained is the person who is their mind is like a squirrel. It's all over the place, right? Because every little piece of glitter, anything that comes into their peripheral or their thoughts or feelings distracts them and off they go. Okay. And in these days, sometimes that's even diagnosed and they give you medication for things like that. Right. That's why concentration is so important. Your ability to take your mind and say, no, this is what I'm going to work on. And then later on, when you can attach mindfulness to your concentration or to your ability to focus, it can help you in many different ways. The metaphor I usually use with the students is I'll tell them, say, look, when you train a dog, do you put it on a long leash or a short leash? You put it on a short leash. And the reason you do that for the dog is so that it learns that this is concentrate. I want you here. All right. If you're online, go ahead and mute your microphone, okay? So if you're training your dog, your puppy, then you put it on a short leash so that it learns to concentrate. This is the area I want you. Because if you put it on a long leash, it just runs, chases the cat and everything else, right? So in the beginning, it's important to get it close, get it used to being close, and concentrate on what it is you're asking it to do, where you are. And then as it gets better, you give it a little bit more leash, right? And you train it with a little bit more and a little bit more. And then one day you take the big test and you decide to go out into a gated area and you let it off the leash. Now it can become aware of anything. It can become mindful of everything, the squirrel, the cat, the other dogs, other people. And you're in hopes that there's enough concentration in it that it'll stay and still follow your commands, right? But that's not the end of the testing and the training, is it? Because that was in a gated area. One day you're going to want to go hiking out in the woods or take it on a bike ride with you and let it run beside you. Now it's got free will and can go where it wants to go. And you're relying on the fact that that training that you provided it is going to keep it close enough, but yet fun enough for it that it can be mindful, but still concentrate on what it is that you're doing with it. Okay. Is that how you've been raising your puppy? Right. She's just gotten a puppy in the past, what, 4 months, 3 months, right? 2 months, right? And is the process I described pretty much what you're going through, right? You're not at the point of letting it off the leash, though. Oh, you did. Oh, there you go. Let her off the leash. She came back. One of the things my Sifu, and he was one who kind of told me this story. And one of the things that he would follow the story up with is that most people expect more of their dog than their own brain. You think about that. They'll spend more time training the dog than they will themselves. Okay. Uh, and so when we look at our training, we're off the leash all the time, right? We're off the leash all the time. All you have to do is have, for example, a girlfriend that disrupts your day or a boyfriend that disrupts your day, and off you go, right? Your job situation changes, and your ability to concentrate on where it is you want to go just disappears like dust. So, when we're training, the idea is that we're not just training, like the Dalai Lama says, one of the things that he's found very troublesome in a lot of approaches to meditation and mind training. And that's the way I was, the book that my Sifu handed me was this thick Buddhist book, and it's called Mind Training. The Dalai Lama would often talk about how he was concerned that so many people were being trained in something like transcendental meditation, if you've heard of that. And in that time period, and pretty much you escape, you relieve yourself of the pressures and tensions of the world. And then when you get done, they're all still right there. All you did was take, a little trip down the Milky Way, and then you come back, but nothing's really changed. You just gave yourself a life raft to float around for a little bit. So if you could imagine, giving yourself a raft and having a margarita and floating around the pool, but you're not swimming and you're not going anywhere. You're just going to finish your drink, get out, and get right back out of the pool. What we're looking for is a little bit more than that. And my students will tell you, and I'll tell you straightforward. I started this in 1987, and it's not easy. Okay, but it's layered. So we're not expecting you to get to a certain place at any certain time. As the metaphor was given me, how long do you give your child to learn to walk? As long as they need. As long as they keep working on it and, chiseling away at it, they fall a little bit, they get a little bit, but most adults don't treat themselves that way. Well, I've been practicing for 2 months and I'm no more mindful than I was, 8 months ago. Well, I didn't know it was a job and that you were testing everything, because that in itself keeps you from where you're trying to go. All right. So when you're learning, like we'll practice some today, is that first you have to give yourself permission to learn to walk and put it on a short leash. And when you put the dog on the short leash for the first few times, what does it do? It pulls, it chews on the leash, it tries everything it can to get off of it. You will too. Now, how will you do that? And it's important that you recognize these symptoms not as judgments, just awareness that you're fighting. So here's some of the things you'll go through. I'll ask you to be quiet and still and breathe, and you'll go. And you'll start what Sifu used to hate it. God, just stop fidgeting. Fidgeting is a way of trying to chew your way off the leash. Okay. You'll find other symptoms where your mind will run all the way to the grocery store, what it did with grandma last week. and you'll be wandering around, whatever that was. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what am I doing over there? And you have to bring it back because the mind is looking for a way to get off of the leash. These are okay. What's important is that you give yourself the latitude to learn to walk. Okay. Are there any questions so far? Does it sound reasonable? Okay. Mm-hmm. Being comfortable is a big deal. But that's why we're not standing today, because most of the, like I said, most of the other students don't get that latitude when they're coming in to learn the martial piece with me, because the leash is real short. And here we have a little bit longer leash. So that's why we're seated. But you can also find being a little bit more comfortable, whether it's sitting on the floor in any postures you want, can be helpful, or in the chair. Or a stool. One of my favorite, some of mine is some of those short stools, and I'll sit up on the short stool like that. But that, now that increases the intensity of the physical discomfort, right? Because you're actually trying to train your body a little bit more. I'm not going to focus so much on training your body right now. I'll just ask you to try to be as poised is a good word. Being taking some pride in yourself. So as you're seated, have this sense of being, upright and poised is a good one, at least for me. And the other thing is to make sure that you have a language that works for you. And by that, just because I say something, if it doesn't resonate with you, try to listen to the message more than the words. And so with that being said, we'll go through the next physical part of the exercise, and that's to identify both the edge of awareness and the edge of mindfulness. And the edge of focus, and how they work differently, and how your mind with training can quickly become attentive to which mode is it in, which edge of the sword you're working on. All right. Like I said, several of you have done this with me before, but we're going to do it again because it's a good physical reminder. All you have to do first is the same sort of thing they do with a lot of marksmen and pilots, because they have to be aware that their mind clicks in and out of awareness and focus. NASCAR drivers are the same way. Okay, because they're riding at 180, 200 miles an hour, whatever it is on that track, and they have to stay focused on where it is they want to go, because if they become aware of all the other drivers around them at 200 miles an hour, and that there's a wall coming up at just within a few hundred yards, they'll run right into it. Okay, and that's exactly how they teach you. So for us to do it without putting ourselves at risk, all I want you to do is take your hand, hold it out in front of you, one finger, pretty much at the level of your nose right there. And I want you to focus on the fingernail, the tip of that finger. And I want you to let your eyes follow it as you move it a little bit side to side, about shoulder width or so, and just follow your fingertip. And stay focused on that fingertip for a few rounds. Good. Come back to middle. Now focus out in the distance and move your finger the same way. Okay. Go back to your fingertip. All right. Move it. Focus on the fingertip. What looks blurry to you when you focus on the fingertip? The background, right? Now focus on the background. Now what looks blurry? The finger. Okay. So when you're focused on your fingertip, the background becomes blurry. All right. When you focus and become aware and mindful of the background, the object becomes the blur. Now, I had the reverse problem of most people, right? Where most people not most, but many people are very mindful and aware of things and have a lot of struggle focusing. I can hyper focus where you don't exist. Okay. I don't hear anything you say. I don't pay attention to anything about you because I'm focused on what I'm doing. Right. When you're focused, you can learn to train your mind to stay focused on something. And the first thing it has to do is learn how to focus. And then second is to develop a stamina to do it for amount of time to achieve something, whatever that is. Now, I'm going to put this to you. You don't have to always practice meditation or set here in order to become aware of your mind clicking in. Okay. It is a usual, whether it's, I don't know what the right word is, if it's a generalization is the right word I'm looking for, that most women, when they speak to you, it's in the message and tone, where most men, it's in the words that they choose to say what they mean. And they will get upset, and there's a conflict in conversation because they'll say, why don't you just say what you mean? Have y'all ever heard that? Yeah, yes, 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 right? And you're usually saying, well, I did. I said exactly what it was. Well, most of the time when women communicate, they're talking from the background, and the message is in the tone and the context which they say it. Where men are usually, that's exactly what I said, that's exactly what I meant. And the background means nothing to me, nor does the context or how you took it, because I said what I meant and I followed through up on that. Now, that's me. That's me in my raw form. I had to learn, just like I'm sharing with you, that, oh my gosh, I'm really a lot like this. I have to learn to soften up, is the word. I call it the 5,000 foot view. In my heart, I have to take a breath and just try to listen to the tone and the message more so than the words. Okay. So you can practice that. I'm getting applauses already. Thank you. But the idea is that you can practice that without having to sit down to practice. I'm going to do my meditation. Just practicing being aware of where your mind's at. And then see if you have anything that you're trying to focus on. Okay. And then you start to put it into work for you. Right. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Now, is there anything particularly that anyone would like to, like to achieve or learn today while they're here with me for these next little bit? No, you just open to whatever it is I toss out. Okay, you're at my mercy then, right? We're getting the leash on. All right. So, in most mind and body training, the leash comes in two forms, two threads that intertwine to cause the collar. Okay, and it is in stillness and in quietness. That's your leash. That's what you're monitoring yourself of. How still can you be? How quiet can you be? And then as your mind drifts off of that, don't beat yourself up. When that happens, it's not a matter of if, when that happens, just take a breath, become aware that's where you are, and bring yourself back with us. Okay. All right. And just as one last note before we get started, my Sifu, who, he was a old Chinese man from Guangdong, China. And even other Chinese people wouldn't train with him because they said he was just too old school. And he didn't care if you were a student or not. He loved you and worked with you, but if you couldn't take it, just quit. Hey, if you quit, that's one less person I have to deal with. So no problem. And he would toss you out. Like if he saw you over there practicing Tai Chi with a set of earbuds in, listening to music, leave. Don't want you here. Because your body's here going through the motions, but your mind is wherever it is you've decided to put it. Okay. And that was the sort of standard that I maintained for about 9 years with him until he kind of just said, it's time for you to start teaching on your own. As we get started, let's just loosen up the joints and body, because one of the things, even though we are going to be mostly seated and comfortable, when you're trying to train, it's good to have some flow. So we're going to do a few exercises I like to do right out of the chair, And because I have bad shoulders, we're going to do what is called the snake's tongue. And in this one, just put one hand on the elbow and roll it up. The hand comes underneath the chin and it spits out like a snake's tongue. And it rolls under toward the belly button, up the sternum, and out. That's 2, 3, 4. And what we're doing is we're kind of warming up the elbows and the wrists a little bit. Good. That's it. Yeah. But you'll notice that distinct feel when you try to get it right underneath your chin and up, there's this twisting that kind of happens in the forearm a little bit. Okay. Good. Now, this time when you take it out, hold it out and roll in a big circle. You can go ahead and deepen your breath a little bit. So you don't have to synchronize it. Just deepen your breath a little bit and exhale slowly. Roll it the other way. You're already practicing mind and body training. A few more. Good. Now, we're going to do a few grasps and tosses. So what you do here is you're going to imagine, this is my imagery for it. There's $100 bill floating down in the sky. You got one chance. You grab it. Grab it. And then the next one. Snatching the, yeah, as quick and deliberate as you can. Come on. Good. Now, gently close the hand, not hard. And now imagine as if, and if you've ever done this, it's a lot of fun. Like you stick your hand in paint, can of paint. I want you, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine your hand is covered in paint and you're going to shoot it across to the mirror back there and you go back, flick it. 2, 3, 4. Let's do 2 more just because we like it. Good. All right. Good. All right. Now the other side, and this is going to hurt me a little bit. So good. All right. Oh, man. 1, 2. Remember to deepen your breath a little bit. That'll help you slow it down and feel your movement. You don't have to synchronize it. Just breathe. Two more rounds. Good. Big circles. Go the other way. Good. Grab the money. 1. Lick the honey. Good. Shake it out a little bit. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now we're going to lift up the toes in our chair here. What we're going to do is just do, I just call them windshield wipers. If you're from the old days and you remember the old truck, right? And the windshield wipers go click, click, click. Just take your time. What you want to do is you're trying to roll them over so you get a little stretch in, and you're doing hips and you're doing hips. And I don't even know if I can do that. Wait a second. Yeah. All right. If you can just keep it for right now, just down in here and There you go. Good. There you go. And what you'd like to be able to do is fold those ankles over a little bit and fold them over the other way a little bit. Okay. All right. Now, regardless if you're like you are, you can still do this exercise. What I'd like for you to do is just let's cross one over the other if you can. You don't have to pull it up deep. Okay. In fact, that's why my leg I extended out first. And then what I'll do is bring my foot underneath me. And now just exhale and lean into it a little bit. Ooh. Oh, yeah. You usually become aware of some area in the backside that's tight. It doesn't matter where. You just ease into it, exhale, and relax into it. Two more breaths. Good. Oh, yeah. Did you feel like you got a little bit of a stretch on that one? Yeah, get some blood flow. All right, extend it out, fold it up. It's always normal for one side to feel different than the other too. So, be give yourself some latitude. Oh, all right. Whenever you're ready. Oh, quit laughing at me, Carlene. Oh, wow. It hits me where I live. Oh, mm. Best chance you have of relaxing a little bit is just to exhale slowly. And if this is tight at all, and if it's bothering you, just extend your leg back out. It doesn't matter how high it is. That's just progression. Good. Enough of that. Oh, there we go. All right. Now we want to hit the sides a little. So all I want to ask you to do, so this is great all the way around. What I want you to do is just take one arm, doesn't matter which, because we're going to do both sides. I want you to just tip it over and try not to tip it down. Tip it over and out so you'll get a nice little openness through those intercostals. And when you breathe in, imagine that you could breathe into that area, almost as if it could expand. And when you exhale, it gives a little bit. In Chinese, basically, this is where you start the phrase of guiding the qi is a phrase that you hear. But basically, what you're doing is you're guiding your energy and your thought. And you're already practicing and have been practicing the concentration side of the sword of attention. Good. Let it come up or back. Come back. Yeah. Let's go the other way. Ooh. Good. Just open it up. Usually, what I'll do is I'll imagine this is folding, this is pressing. Like when I breathe in, it goes that way. And that way I can feel it stretch out and open up a little bit. And if you've ever had a cracked rib or a strained intercostal, it's one of the most painful experiences. Good. Let it come back. All right. Now, I don't know about with you all, but I'll already start to calm down. My mind starts to come back. Okay. What you like for you to do here is you can lay your hands. You'll see me do a couple of different postures. One is just a universal utilitarian open palm on the thigh or somewhere down on the leg, somewhere it's comfortable. Okay. But not up tight and not so far out that you cause yourself tension. So I'll usually let them in. Hang right just above the kneecap, and I'll try to get myself upright. And by upright, usually, a lot of times when I ask some people to be upright, what they'll do is they'll pinch their back. Okay. What I want you to do is imagine your tailbone pulls you back upright, and then your head in Chinese called bai wei. It means the convergence of 1,000 places, and that's the anatomical point called the bai wei. In our language, it's the same area as the baby soft spot. It's the last part that forms of the human body. Okay, as far as the bone structure goes. So the bai wei pushes up toward the sky. The spine is upright, not necessarily straight, but upright. Your chin, when you get upright, does not mean jack your head back. What it means is that the head's up and the chin stays one apple. So if you take a closed hand and set it here on your sternal notch, your chin will just about rest on it. Okay. Don't force it. Just get an idea where you are. Now the mind and body are working together. Your hands are open and turned slightly upward, whatever's comfortable there, so that you are physically demonstrating where you are in your heart and your mind. The open hand can both give and receive. That's where we want our heart. We want to be able to give a little bit if necessary and receive a little bit if necessary. We'll do a little breath work from here just to get ourselves opened up a little bit more internally. So I'd like for you to breathe in around a count of 3 or 4, and then exhale around a count of 6 to 8. Three more breaths. And any other sounds that you hear, just come and go. Check your body's posture again. Make any mild adjustments that you feel like you need to at this moment. One of the more important breathing exercises for myself is called silk breathing. And during that time, the exercise is for you to breathe in, count of 5, exhale for a count of 5, with no pauses on either end, just a gentle flow of breath. We're going to do 21 repetitions, and I'll let you know when I'm finished. This exercise is so important for those who tend to cling. Start becoming aware that no matter what it is that's happening, you keep a flow about yourself, a gentle flow. The outside world is not going to dictate how I feel. I will decide those matters myself. Return to a natural breath for yourself. Make whatever minor adjustments you need to. You'll notice, as we discussed earlier, that sometimes your mind will drift off, or you'll have the internal phenomenon to where you'll concentrate so hard that the face wrinkles up and all this intensity begins to gather. Or the leash is a little too slack and you'll find yourself starting to drift off into like you're going to sleep. Okay. You're trying to learn to find the middle ground and develop stamina there. If you need to, occasionally, you slightly open your eyes, and that will help you become more attentive and keep you awake if you start to feel like you're drifting. If you feel like you're too intense, sometimes it's helpful to just gently close your eyes and exhale slowly. Allow yourself to create what is called a mind scene for yourself. Allow yourself to be in one of your favorite places, beach, floating along in a boat, on a mountain, sitting on a rock by the river, wherever it is. And perhaps it's a place you've never been, but you know you'd be comfortable there. And I'd like for you to use your mind to construct as many details about it as you can. Use all your senses first. What would it feel like? Temperature of the air, presence of sunlight, what about the sounds that might be there? The scent in the air, whether it's something like the honeysuckle of a mountain or the mist of the ocean. A few more breaths. And make whatever minor adjustments that you need. Now I'm going to take you one little step further. I don't normally walk people to this next step the first time or two, but I'd like for you to see what you can do with it. Okay. Anytime that you feel that you're coming off of this place of being comfortable and safe and happy, return to it. But what I'd like for you to do now is to imagine almost like you're in a theater, coliseum, somewhere where there's a play and there's characters up on the stage. And I want you to be pretty far away from the stage to start with. And you're able to watch the characters play out what you might perceive, what you do perceive, was a painful time in your life. Perhaps it was a transgression that you felt like that was done, or a loss, or a grief, or something that you wish would have been different or you would have handled differently. If you began to emotionally experience it, re-experience it, you may feel your breath change and your body begin to change. Remember that you're watching a play. And even though you might be able to relate to the scene and the experiences that the characters are portraying, you're not on the stage. You're not reliving it. You're only observing it. As you're able to maintain the tranquility inside yourself as you observe this, you can move a little closer to the stage. And you can keep your calmness. I'd like for you to return to a quiet and comfortable place for yourself. Imagine the sunshine is on your skin, the warmth, heat. Breathe full. Taking a full breath. As you exhale slowly, let your eyes open a little bit and wiggle your fingers and toes around a little bit. All right, so that was 25 minutes of the meditational time. How'd that go? Went good? Okay, good. Felt like 5 minutes? All right, so the phases we went through just in summary would be, trying to get yourself physically ready and mentally ready. What do you actually expect of yourself? That part can't be ignored, because if you start approaching it like a job, you're going to create tension for yourself and punish yourself because you're not focused enough. If you saw someone training their dog that way, you'd turn them in for abuse, wouldn't you? If you saw them beat the dog every time they didn't sit on time, or you would call somebody. So give yourself plenty of latitude, okay? Get your body ready, get your heart ready, and say, okay, I've got plenty of latitude here. I like doing this exercise, as simple as it is, because it reminds me quickly I can change what I'm attentive to in a flash of a second. When you're moving your finger and I ask you to focus on the background, how long did that take you? About a third of a second. Once you're aware of it, you can change what your mind is attentive to. Is it focused, or you listening to the words or the message? And when you can do it that quickly, you learn that you can do both. All you got to do is click in and out. Okay. Once you're aware of it. After that, we did some breath work. I like to start off with a little just gentle breathing, 3 count in, 5 count out. And then we did the silk breathing, 5 count in, 5 count out, no pauses, to remind you not to cling. No matter what it is you hear, no matter what it is you remember, no matter what it is, you keep a flow going. Because clingers do what? They clench. They clench in their breath, they clench in their mind, they clench in the heart, because this was wrong. And they never let it go. Okay? No matter what, remind yourself. That's why that one was so important to me. Then we did a little bit of an exercise of a mind sing, okay, where you created a place for yourself that you felt comfortable and happy. Now, in transparency, my favorite comfortable place is I'm sitting at the bar at my grandma's kitchen, at a stool. And when I'm sitting at the stool, my grandpa usually had his Maxwell instant Sanka coffee with boiling water sitting there beside me. And I was about 7, 6, 7, up until, I was 12, 13, as long as I can remember. And we're sitting at the bar. He's got the newspaper, his coffee, looking out across the bar, out into the backyard, into the farm area. And there was always cornbread cooking. I could smell it just like I was there again today. Right? Safe, happy, comfortable, everything. It doesn't have to be an exotic place. Okay. And once you can get there, did you all get to a place where you felt like you're a little bit more comfortable and quiet? So you know what you are, what we refer to in physiology almost as homeostasis, where everything is about as balanced as you're going to make it today. Then I took you to a step, like I said, I don't think I've even taught the students that this one, except for some of my longtime students. is then you take that, and like I said to you before, this is mind and body training. So once you get there and you know you can get there, well, that's great, but how can you use it? And one of the simplest ways to use it is to take things that you see, feel, remember as some sort of pain, transgression, discomfort, loss, grief, you know, and in the seriousness of transparency, one things I have to forgive myself for on a regular basis is that the same grandmother I was just telling you about, my mom calls me on one day, I'm 21 years old, and she says, "Hey, I just want to let you know your grandmother passed away yesterday." Because she couldn't get a hold of me the day before. I was at UNC Wilmington at the time. And the only thing I could remember is I didn't get to call her. I used to see her every week, almost every day. And then I had not talked to her for a week before she passed away. And I just have to remember that she knows that I loved her and those types of things. But I have to remind myself of that, or I'll beat myself up because I can focus. And if I get clingy on that, I'll beat myself up pretty good. That's one of the ways you use that. You start off, my seafood would like to tell you, say, look, if you can't imagine your grandmother and yourself up on the stage as characters and actors, then the two things you can do is first make sure you're in the back of the stage and then change the characters to something. He liked to use Looney Tunes. Imagine it's Elmer Fudd and Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny playing out the scene rather than you. And you can tell when you get homeostasis and you're quiet, and as soon as you see it, you'll feel your body go, it'll change. And you have to work yourself through it. As you can work yourself through it, you can get closer and closer to the stage so that you can feel the presence, but you're okay. You're not reliving it. All right. And that can help you get through numbers and numbers and numbers of emotional pain spots. If you have any, y'all might be some of the very fortunate folks that, have a much cleaner. When I went through it, there was a moment in my life where I had to stop. It was like turning around and I went, holy crap. My life behind me is a minefield filled with craters that I didn't even know I had done or not done. So that's how I use that sequence of exercises, 30 minutes, 45 minutes a day. And I continue to do that. That's why I'm still teaching, because I still practice, because I need it. And then, so anyway, any comments or observations? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Mm, mm, mm-hmm. I can sit here and watch this. Yeah. That's great. Uh, Anybody else observe anything about themselves or what their experience? Okay. All right. Uh, any comments? Did I do you justice? I hope I brought some value to you. Yeah, I did. Okay, well, good. Because my goal is, like I said, the way that I teach and the way I was taught is a little different than most. I know that, and it's not always an easy approach, and it's not always the most pleasant experiences. But the stories are there, the realities are there, and your ability to take what I'm saying metaphorically, whether it's a dog on the leash or wherever it might be, and be able to put it, you can use your practice as much and as often as you want. So I'll task you with homework, and that is to try to be attentive during the course of the rest of the day today of two things. One is, where is your mind? Are you just listening to the words, or are you paying attention to the messages? Okay. And the second is to try to have as much gratitude today as possible. And the easiest way to do that is be aware of the words. Avoid using the words I have to. Use the phrase, I get to. No matter what it is, I get to go to the bank. I get to go shopping because there's some people in this world who can't, who don't have that access. Okay. So use the phrase I get to rather than I have to a lot more often. Okay. So those are your two homework assignments for the day. And anything else, I got this recorded. I'll put it up on the website once I get it downloaded and transferred over. It'll be at TW Smith. That's my YouTube site. You can type up Kung Fu Podcast. It's all Chinese martial arts and mind and body training. So you can go there and get it. I'll put it up in the public domain so y'all can find it. If not, my office is in the Wellness Center where we do massages, literally just directly across from behind me, across the rooms there. So if you have questions going, hey, Sifu, I can't remember what you said about X, and just stop by. Usually I can give you plenty to do in 2 minutes, can I, Laura? She says that painfully. Yes, I can give you plenty to do in 2 minutes, keep you busy for a month. All right. Very good. We'll see you all a bit later. Oh.